about the epidemiology, the mode of transmission of AIDS, prevention of AIDS, and so on. Now, on top of that, we also have two senior physicians who have been to United States and received training.
Is the service provided by the trained medical staff helpful to people who need to know more than just basic information? We asked Tim, one of the 4 men, to call and see what kind of advice they give homosexuals.
The Medical and Health Department. Our lines are busy at the moment. Please hold on until we can answer your call.
It took him almost half an hour to get through. By then, it was 7:50, 10 minutes before the clinic calls it a day.
What, like if I'm a homosexual, should I take the blood test?
Oh, you may.
What can the blood test tell me? Like what, I'm not sure what exactly, what information does it give me?
The blood test is to screen the antibody of the virus.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes, we keep it confidential, and we won't ask for your name, your address, and your ID card, and so on. But there is a simple question here. Do you mind? So I ask you that.
I think that people there are not trained enough, especially in dealing with homosexuals, for one thing. Considering that all media has pointed to gay men as a high-risk group, the training of the counseling personnel definitely was geared toward straight men. They have very little knowledge of homosexuality, and they have very little sensitivity in dealing with homosexuals. For example, when I called up last time, I said, if I'm a homosexual, does it mean I have a higher risk of getting AIDS? And then she said, of course, that means you'll be having anal intercourse, and it's very high-risk activity. So I said, well, not all gay men have anal intercourse. Then she said, well, then I wouldn't know. What kind of sex would you have? Teach me. I think it's rather ridiculous. You know, that just goes to show how much they know about, you know, being gay. And I think they're very cautious about being not judgmental. But somehow, somewhere along the line, the personal judgment creeps up. Like the lady also tells me, why don't you try dating girls, you know, and why don't you have a girlfriend? And the tone of voice she speaks with me when she assumed that I was straight was very friendly and really doesn't push me to take the test. But as soon as she finds out that I'm a gay man, then she really pushed me to take the test. So there's a difference in attitude. Most of it is shown in a very subtle ways, but it's still there. And you also get a very uneasy feeling that they only know so much, and they're not willing to let you ask questions that would probe any further than that, because they would always goes back to the original answer. For example, like I asked them, if you take the test and you become positive, does that mean I can't have sex anymore? Then she would say, well, you wear a condom. So in Chinese, I've asked, so if I have safe sex anyway, then I don't need to take the test. And then she would go back to the original answer, which is, well, you will have to take the test to know whether you're infectious to other people, which is really doesn't deal with the, you know, the complexity of the questions.
Depending really what information the individuals ask. You see, if they ask just information about AIDS, and they are not really a person in the high-risk group, then the only thing is to provide them with the correct information and answer specifically to their questions.
The other thing about the counseling service is that they really doesn't provide the relative risk of different sexual behaviors. Basically, it's either risky or not risky. There's no range of it. There's no relative risk of which is higher risk. They just tell you, well, you would have a chance, you would have a chance. So you really don't get a feeling of what you can change to lower your risk.
Whatever the shortcomings of the counseling clinic, someone does appreciate its service.
I think it's so good having a service which is actually like helping people they can ring up, and I think it's also really good that they're able to, you know, have a place to ring, because I know a lot of countries don't do that. so it's more helpful and it's made people more aware.
Those in the high-risk groups can also call the counseling service to arrange for a blood test to find out if they might be infected. But these men won't take the test.
There's really no benefit of getting the test, because if you're tested positive, you're getting very limited service, and there's only so much you can do about it. And basically, there's not much you can do about it other than not infecting other people. And by practicing safe sex, basically you can prevent that already. But if you're tested positive, there's nothing provided for in terms of helping you to cope with the outcome.
Actually, you wouldn't go for the blood test either, right? Not now.
Not now.
But you have been for a blood test before.
I did.
Why did you go the first time?
I didn't know much about the virus at the time. It's only from foreign magazines, newspaper. And it's highly published about the blood test is good for you and things like that, especially when I dial up the hotline and they very eagerly asked me to do the blood test. So I guess they maybe do good for me. So I went for the blood test to see how it went.
Now you say you won't go for it. What is it that has made you change your mind about blood tests?
The relevance of the test to me is more important. After I tested negative and I think about it, this doesn't mean that I will not contract the disease in the future. Unless I take the test again and again, probably in around 1 month or 2 months interval. But within the 1 or 2 months interval, it's very difficult for you to know whether you have contracted the virus throughout within the period, and also whether it's a method, whether there's any method to cure the disease. If there's no way to cure the diseases, even if you're tested positive, you are in a helpless position.
Having blood tests, there are at least 2 useful purposes. Now, the first is to know about the individual's own situation, and so that he will know his position in regard to exposure to the AIDS virus. Now, the other is to protect the other person who come to contact sexually with this person.
In spite of its shortcomings, the government has at least started something to increase public awareness. Admittedly, this is the start of an ongoing campaign. And so, what's the next step?
At the same time, we have been conducting seminars, lectures, workshops to our doctors, and particularly doctor in private sector. And we are also going to conduct workshops for teachers in secondary schools, and also teachers in kindergarten, primary schools, so that again they are given the proper understanding of AIDS, and they themselves will also propagate the message. So all this done simultaneously rather than by different stages. Now, of course, we will have to monitor the program and see in what other areas we can, if necessary, strengthen our present efforts.
They beat the government to it the last time, and it looks like they'll be doing it again next time. What's the next step in their anti-AIDS publicity?
You know, we've flogged this message to death. I think it's time to come back with another message. And hopefully this one we can mention condoms, you know, which is the latest taboo word.
Well, rewrite the spots, do some new angles, and definitely promote the use of condoms, if the government will allow that. At the moment, I believe there's some kind of problem with not being able to promote the use of condom either on radio or on TV. So hopefully they'll change that in the next few weeks, and then we can put the new spots out.
That restriction on condoms is being relaxed. On with the fight against AIDS.
There's a killer on the loose. It's threatening the way some people do business.
Hello, girls. I'd like you to meet Jack. He's a business associate of mine from out of town.
It's threatening your future.
Well, Jack, looks like we've got lucky tonight.
And threatening the lives of those around you.
What time did you get in? I was so worried about you.
Oh, that meeting just went on forever.
On shortly, the main news at 7:30, followed by the financial and weather reports.